Hey, this is Paul, founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. You've got to meet Pamela Twigg. I had her on Giant TV, and it was an awesome conversation. This woman is very successful in her career, has an executive leadership business she's running. She lived in Amsterdam for many years. We had a great discussion about that. You're going to want to meet her. A lot of takeaways. Let's go check it out. Hi, everybody. Thanks for jumping on Giant TV. This is Paul Hitchcock. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. We help others to grow and nurture their businesses. This is our office here in Southern California near Disneyland. And really excited to have Pamela Twigg on here with me today, who's an executive leadership coach doing really interesting things. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Exciting.
Yeah, no, thanks. And we were talking offline, and you've got so much going on. I want to jump into this. First of all, a little bit about your background and how you got into executive leadership coaching.
Yeah, I kind of backed into it. If I look back and in hindsight, kind of look at my path that I've taken, it's kind of been one of these and makes total sense that I'm now doing executive and leadership coaching, but it wasn't strategic and it wasn't planned. I started out studying languages. I studied French and Russian with this grand idea that I would go off to law school. And then this was the time of Gorbachev. And I don't know, in those period and like opening up of the Soviet Union. And I was going to be a lawyer and help with these very capitalist idea of bringing corporations to the Soviet Union because that's what they needed.
And you did not choose easy languages there. Russian and French are like, okay, the hardest two on the planet to learn.
Well, French I thought was beautiful. French was, I was exposed to French in middle school. I remember coming into the classroom, and this is going to say a lot about me. Sat in the classroom, and I had this huge realization that, oh my gosh, people speak other languages. I was blown away by the fact that not everyone speaks English.
I know.
And that changed my whole trajectory. So that moment, it was like French, France, people out, oh my God. So French I loved, and that was more from that. And Russian was that noble idea that, I'm here to save you, fellow, Soviet Union members, that you don't know what you need. So studied Russian, loved it, absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. Ended up doing an internship and working with the Department of Defense in Russian.
Wow. Oh,
incredible experience.
Yeah, then, I bet.
The world came calling. I got a graduate scholarship, went to France to study graduate studies in a place called Besançon. So I didn't go to Paris. I went to the Franche-Comté, which is a beautiful region near Switzerland.
Yeah, what's not to like? Yeah.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing there was almost nobody spoke English. So I was really immersed in the culture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I loved it, found it fascinating. Then ended up in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, where I thought, oh, I'll just be here for a year. Why not? Learned Dutch, became fluent in Dutch, and ended up staying there 23 years. And my background, I did nothing with the languages other than love them. And the language I realized was kind of the catalyst or the mechanism by which I could do other things. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up in the ICT world, the telecoms world. By default, I went to an interview for one company, and the woman who interviewed me for her position was moving to a telecom company and actually called me out after the interview, stopped me in the elevator and said, you just interviewed for my job here, but I want to take you with me where we're going.
Oh.
And it was the first pan-European telecom organization that came into being. So it was the Netherlands, Sweden, and Switzerland joining forces to be a pan-European telecom company to compete with the AT&Ts of the world.
Okay. And I got to say real quick too, Pamela, that you and I were talking a bit offline, but you living over there in Amsterdam, you and I are talking, I've been there, an incredible area. It gives you a different perspective on life too, for you, which I know probably helped you in business, having that exposure. Is that a fair statement?
That is a very fair statement. all of us have ingrained ways in which we see the world.
Yeah.
All of our patterns come from thoughts and beliefs from, culture, from our family, from our environment.
Childhood.
And
Yeah.
when you don't move out of those, or when you're not having the ability to see beyond those, you are, I find, limiting yourself in the ability to change your patterns, to see other perspectives, to be
Hmm.
able to recognize. And so all of that and working in those environments and getting opinions from Swedish people, Swiss people, Dutch people with mine combined completely helped and
Awesome.
shaped how I showed up.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up in the telecoms world
Mm.
and basically stayed there until I stepped out a couple of years ago to get into coaching. And it wasn't per se a thing that I thought that's where I want to be, but I
Yeah.
recognized, that I love I do what I call like a deeper type of coaching because it really is about, well, who are you? Why are you? I'm not a therapist. I know I'm not a licensed therapist, but who we are has to do with where we came from.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you
Yeah.
want sustainable change over time, understanding those ingrained patterns, that's part of it. And then recognizing how it's helped you be who you are. And also at a certain point, it's probably getting in your way. And so recognizing that, that's kind of where I come from with when I'm coaching with someone. If you want sustainable change, that's, to me, in my experience, that only happens when you understand why you are where you are today.
So, Pamela, let me ask you then to clarify that. So, you're working one-on-one. I know you work one-on-one with
Mhm.
leaders and then leadership teams, but if you're working one-on-one first,
Mhm.
uh, does a client come to you and say, I have this goal I want to reach, I want to get here, or I have a challenge I need to overcome? I mean, what is the impetus,
Mhm.
if there is one, for getting together in
Mhm.
the first place?
Yeah. Usually, usually what I see is someone comes to me because there's a particular challenge. A lot of people, they don't necessarily come to me with a particular goal in mind, because in general, these people are very goal driven. They
Uh,
understand, if I have a goal, I need to get there, and this is what I need to do. So I find that people tend to come to me because they're facing a challenge.
in the workplace or personally or both?
It can be either. We
Either.
are who we are and we bring ourselves to work,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. But what I tend to find is it's usually a professional challenge.
Like
And
what? For example, a personality of someone on the team that's getting in the way, or
honestly, from some of it, there are a couple of things. A theme of, you hear it a lot, and I think you had some people before you talked to about the imposter syndrome.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, if they really knew what I knew, I wouldn't actually be here. And so that affects, how you're showing up. It also affects your ability to delegate, not delegate to control things.
Hmm.
It's limiting in that way. The other one that I find the leaders come to me with is boundary setting, and kind of in the direction of burnout, because they're used to saying, I need to be doing all of this. And because of also, for example, that imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
any new request that comes their way or new position they find themselves in, there's this stress of, but I don't know enough. So I have to do this training. I have to say yes to that person. I have to make sure that I'm involved in that organization. I have to make sure that I network at this event. I have to be on, be speaking at different places. So it's kind of not being able to choose and say no to certain things that are not serving them anymore. And there's a little bit of what I notice with clients. There is an awareness of great achievement
Hmm.
because they have accomplished great things. And yet I find sometimes a little bit of a, regret is too strong of a word, but there's this nostalgia or something around the fact that where they are now and realizing all of the things that they did to get there, some of it wasn't necessary. And what I'm talking about is that burden they place on themselves to prove themselves.
Mm.
or, to be the perfect one, to be the hero, there's a pressure there that looking back, hindsight is always the wonderful tool,
Right.
you know, but what they want to do is to be able to shed some of that so that they can be more focused, so that they do have more energy and more time to do things that actually feel like it's their sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm. No, it's clear. And are there specific niches that you prefer to work with, industries, or is it just wide open for you?
Um, I want to say it's a little bit of both. It is wide open. Like I'm working with women in manufacturing. I'm working with some members of Vistage groups who have their own businesses. I'm working with a Vistage chair. And I'm also kind of funneling more working around with physicians, doctors, or the medical field that really has my interest, working with them, particularly on um, self-care. I don't like it's overused, but being able to kind of not get to that space where they're burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that they can show up differently for their patients and for each other. Doctors are not taught the softer skills, as we like to say it previously. They're not
Yeah.
taught that in medical school.
Yeah.
And yet, imagine they are the ones who have to always be on. They always have to have, they can't make mistakes because that
Mm-hmm.
is life or death. Or suddenly they just wanted to be a doctor and they find themselves leading a team of 70 or running a hospital or,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of pressure on them to score well with patient satisfaction. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that a very interesting group because they are also incredibly driven, very self-critical, a
Oh, yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
negative self-talk. And yet, what they show to the world, what a lot of us see, I mean, we all know, we all think about that doctor we work with, like, oh, they're bedside man. There's a lot of how they project externally, which is very different to what's going on internally. So I'm finding
Yeah.
myself drawn to areas like that as well.
Mm-hmm. So when you're working with somebody, what's the initial engagement look like? You come together and is it
Hmm.
just exploratory? Are you doing a lot of listening? Do you have them go through any particular sort of process initially? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So usually when someone comes to me, if we're just talking individuals, they've probably been referred by someone else that I work with. So they have a sense of what that other person has experienced. But
Yeah.
there's always that initial conversation where we're kind of feeling each other out, and that's
Yeah.
usually,
Is it a good fit? Kicking the
yeah,
tires, that sort of thing?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're kicking the tires. And so we usually 30 minutes, okay, let's get on a call. Let's see, tell me a little bit about yourself. I want to hear what it is that is bringing you to coaching. Tell me about that. And then we kind of do the logistics of this is how I work. This is kind of the rhythm of meeting together. This is my process. Like I told you, it tends to be more of a deeper coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a person is going to get out of it what they put in it. And so is that, realistically going to happen? Or are you looking for, I just want a Band-Aid and I want to move on
Yeah.
kind of situation? And then if they're interested, then what I tend to do is I have a few exploratory documents that I send to kind of start to probe into, you know, kind of helping them to tap into that self-awareness and to understand what is my sense of purpose? What am I good at? Why do I do what I do? Because again, it's going back to how they're showing up is connected to a value system or a belief that they have or something related to that. So let's get that baseline of who you are. Who do I have across from me? And
Yeah.
so I have those things that I send up front. And I love the archetypes at work methodology. That's something I'm trained in. That's really kind of, again, it's an assessment, but it's not a label. It's
Mm-hmm.
figuring out who's showing up, what do you need more of to get to meet that challenge that you're faced with. And So I have those things that I do as a baseline, and that first conversation that we have together as coaching client and coach is, they're always 60 minutes, but that first one is really around, let's unpack what you sent me. Let's unpack, what did you avoid, or what are you skeptical about in that? Let's work on that, because that first session again is about, it's the dance. Who's going, I'm not leading,
Yeah.
but they have to have a sense of my dance style, and so it's that. But I find, because of the coaching I do, by the end of that first session, I feel like we both have a really good sense of what that partnership looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have a very calming influence, I got to tell you. I mean, as we're talking here, I mean, your background's incredible, but I think a coach, executive coaches, crowded field, but the separation is someone, good listening skills, and yeah, I mean, you have that. So, I imagine that helps you a lot, just the way your personality is in dealing with people.
Mhm.
And then leadership teams, you're going in there, and is that on site or
Yeah.
virtual or both?
I mean, they can be virtual. Usually the process, how it works is, if I'm working with a team, it's around, um, usually linked to the archetypes at work portion that I do. And it could be, for example, two teams that one has merged with the other as
Mm,
companies. And so this team needs to actually become one. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, who's here?
yeah.
What do you need more of? What does that look like? And so really kind of from that level, let's figure out what the team is together. And so
Hmm.
how that works is, usually the virtual part is, they have an assessment that they take online. Then I always like to say, we unpack it one-on-one.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and that part is virtual. And then when we meet in person, the actual team workshop, that's in person. That's what I prefer, but virtual is possible. You
Yeah.
can get connection virtually, but um, teamwork, my experience is, it's much nicer when you're actually in person and you're taking them out of their space, to make sure, just like with us with coaching, it's about being present in the moment.
Hmm.
Same with the team. Get everyone present, kind of, make sure that they're with you so that you can do the work together.
Yeah, I love it all. And I've got to tell everybody listening that around this video, wherever you're watching this, because we simulcast this on many channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, I think it goes out on that. Got to get connected to Pamela. Pamela, we're going to have your information all around. Maybe it's up here or down here, depending on where you're watching it. Got a great website that tells a lot about you. There's a lot on that website. There's cats, there's dogs, there's a lot of kids on that website. We
And
were
they're all
laughing.
mine. That's the shameful part.
I know. We were talking kids. I got 4, you got 6, or I don't know, 20, something like that. It's a
I have
lot.
30. Yeah.
30. So it's great. But yeah, definitely get connected to Pamela. It's great. And uh Pamela, I'm assuming you have a sort of a complimentary initial session. You'll get on and chat
Yes,
with somebody, and
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
for that. Yeah.
absolutely. Always.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always, the first time we meet, and answering any questions or giving me your thoughts about the process, absolutely. Love to spend time with you, because it's an investment for both of us. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. All right. We'll have those links around here. Pamela, thank you. I know we'll talk again. Very interested in the progress of your efforts going forward, but thank you for being here.
Well, you're very welcome. Totally my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon.
Yeah.